Here we go. Okay. All right, Netta, come on up and do your job.
Do my job.
Do your job. It's not on the TV also.
Perfect.
Get it over on the TV too, so that way I know where I'm at. My mouse, there it is.
I have a chair. Oh, sorry.
And so that way you guys can see where I'm at, what I'm talking about, and everything also. Okay.
Click a button.
Yeah, I'll let you know when to change it. Okay. So we are, like I said, we are starting to study in Ecclesiastes. Okay? And I'm calling it the Wisdom of Vanity. And the reason I'm calling it the Wisdom of Vanity is simply because of what this book has to do with. Okay? It has to do with vanity. Okay? How many of you guys know what vanity is?
A wardrobe.
Okay, yeah, that is one definition of a vanity as a noun, but talking about vanity as a verb or an adjective, do you guys know what that means? Well, awesome. If you don't know what it means, we're going to talk about it tonight. Okay? So you guys are going to learn about that. So like I said, so we're starting this whole study into Ecclesiastes. Yes, we're going to be in chapters 1 through 3 tonight. We're not going to be reading through all of them. The reason I say we're going to be in chapters 1 through 3 tonight is because we're going to be pulling verses from each of those chapters and talking about what these chapters mean in a broader sense. And we're going to be talking about like their application towards us and what it means for us as Christians going forward. Okay? So, that should be done anytime soon. Move the mouse real quick, Nana, so I can just see how much longer it's on there. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be done anytime soon. So, I want to ask you guys each question, and I do want you guys to answer. I love audience participation, so please do this, okay? What is your biggest life goal? What you got, Tiffany?
Be a nurse practitioner.
What?
Be a nurse practitioner.
Be a nurse practitioner. Awesome. That's a great goal. What you got, Veronica?
An athlete,
An athlete. What kind of athlete?
like volleyball or soccer. Like
Volleyball, so like you want to play like in the Olympics or what? Like where's your goal for volleyball?
For volleyball, then like soccer.
The Olympics?
Like a
Soccer, you want to play for like
champion.
you want to play for like Real Madrid or something?
I
Like
want to play for
like an actual club team, like you want to play professional soccer.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm the best.
You don't know a life goal, Netta?
No, I do know. I want
Okay.
to go to the military, be a medical in the military, get a free ticket to university, and then become an anthropologist.
Become an anthropologist.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Become an anthropologist is good. Go into the military, become an anthropologist. Bryce?
I wanted to be a doctor.
Be a doctor. What kind of doctor?
Oh, you're so sweet.
ER doctor.
ER doctor. Wow, that's awesome. That's intense. Miley?
I kind of want to be a photographer.
You want to be a photographer? Cool.
Snap. I need to lose some weight while we do soccer.
What you got, Blake?
You want a toothpick.
My greatest life goal is
Toothpick.
to figure out
Hey, hold up, guys. I can't hear Blaine. What's it?
my greatest life goal is to figure out what my greatest life goal is.
Your greatest life goal is to figure out what your greatest life goal is. You know what? That's totally fine. That's totally fine. Caleb, you got it. What's your greatest life goal?
Try to be some like football, basketball.
Some kind of athlete, professional athlete, football or basketball.
And if that doesn't, I'll try to be a firefighter.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Cool.
I'll be a great athlete.
Photography only requires 3 years of college. Let's go.
What?
Man.
Miley, what's the laziest I can be? What's the goal that I can do that has the least amount of work?
Hey, I would
Photography.
I would
Look,
find-
nowadays, if you ask Kelsey about photography, she would say anybody with a camera can become a photographer because cameras are so good now. Like, it's easy for anybody to be a photographer.
Man, with an iPhone, you should
Dasani, what's your biggest life goal?
I don't know.
You don't know?
For a little bit, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon.
You want to be a neurosurgeon? Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. For a while, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I will fill your heads with random facts about ocean animals. I really will. Okay.
tell me what's in there.
Do you know killer whales are not actually whales? They are actually dolphins.
Yeah.
They're the largest species of dolphin in the world.
I've known that for a while.
I did not know that.
Name
Yep.
every,
Dolphins have
Name
teeth.
name every type of seaweed.
I cannot name every type of seaweed. Okay.
Dolphins
I said animals, not plant
sleep
life. All right.
Oh,
only with
name
one
every
side of their
dolphin.
brain active and the other side dead.
Wait, listen, I mean, sorry, that's one of my teachers at school. Hey, Clyde.
What's up?
Oh, what's the dangerous animal in the sea?
What's the most dangerous animal in the sea? Man o' war jellyfish.
A piranha.
Oh, those are.
Man o' war jellyfish. Absolutely the most dangerous animal in the sea. You don't even.
What's the second most?
What's the second most? I have no idea.
I would say
I don't
piranha.
know.
I think they're painful.
But they don't live in the sea.
They live in the ocean.
No, they live in rivers.
They live.
They are piranhas are freshwater fish. They do not live in salt water.
Are they mostly?
FYI, do not go into like Walmart or any pet store, buy goldfish and release them into the ocean. They'll die. Okay, goldfish are freshwater fish. They will not survive in the sea, which is salt water. Okay,
Yeah.
What about
Don't do that.
River.
huh?
Who went to Walmart, got a bunch of goldfish and just...
There were these two girls that did that on TikTok.
Are you kidding me?
No.
That's so stupid.
They'll die.
Yeah.
That is so
I mean, I
They'll
don't
Be
know.
and if there is a shark for you guys to be afraid of the bull shark, because the bull shark can go from saltwater to freshwater seamlessly and can survive in rivers.
But the thing is, they don't attack unless.
No, actually, bull sharks have the highest testosterone level of any animal, meaning that they are the most likely culprit to attack unprovoked.
What is?
Bull sharks.
Oh, yeah.
Bull sharks are the one shark that I would not get in the water with. I'll get in the water with great whites. I want to go shark diving. I want to get in a shark cage and dive with great whites.
The
That's
only
on
shark
my
I'm
bucket
scared of
list.
is bull shark. The only shark I'm scared of.
Yeah,
Sharks
Because-
Other
are
sharks I'm fine with.
yeah. Bull sharks are bull sharks are awful.
Turtles?
They're jerks.
turtles have teeth at the back of their throat.
Yeah.
It's all
Just kidding.
good.
I will forever not like turtles anymore.
Okay.
About
Now that we've successfully chased that rabbit down, let's get back to our point. So, we talked about our biggest life goals and everything. Tonight we are starting our study in Ecclesiastes. Okay, go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay. Let me tell you guys the theme of the book. It is this: Hevel, Hevel. Everything is Hevel. If you guys have read and you've read verse 2 of Ecclesiastes chapter 1, you know what the theme of the book is. The theme of the book is vanity, vanity. Everything is vanity.
It says meaningless.
Or meaningless. Okay, so some information about this word here, heaven. Okay? Modern English Day translation. This is a Hebrew word. Okay? And modern English Day translations translate it as meaningless, which is what you could say vanity means. Is meaningless. Really what the author is going for and what this idea of hevel means, and what we're going to see through this, is chasing after the wind or grabbing at smoke. I thought about having a fog machine in here and filling the room with smoke and seeing and asking you guys hey, try to catch the fog, okay? Because you can't do it. Okay. The author of Ecclesiastes, what he's writing here is when he's talking about everything is hevel. Everything is grasping at smoke. Okay? It might look like you catch it, but you've not.
you catch it in your mouth.
As it's air.
Because it's air. It's chasing after the wind. Okay? Or striving after the wind. Okay? This is the theme of Ecclesiastes. Hevel, Hevel. Everything is Hevel. Save for one. Save for one thing. And we're going to talk about that. Okay? Go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay? This is some background information on the book. Go. There we go. This is the key verse of the whole theme of the book. Okay, in Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 2, the author writes, "Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity."
What?
Ecclesiastes.
It doesn't say that.
Are you sure you're not in Ezekiel?
Vanity of vanities.
I'm an Ecclesiastic.
Ecclesiastes. 1.
Well, mine
No, I
says
didn't.
vanity. Oh yeah. Mine
Are
says
you
vanity.
in?
Chapter
It
1.
can also say meaningless.
No, I was in number 2.
Come on, bro. Question right now.
Chapter 1, verse 2. Vanity of all vanities. And he's talking about life in general here. That it is the vanity of all vanities. Okay? I'm going to give you guys a heads up. Tonight's lesson, not going to be It's not going to start off super uplifting, and neither is the book of Ecclesiastes.
So it's gonna be like killing death, something like that.
No, it's going to be like
everything is meaningless.
exactly. He's going to go through, and we're going to look at what the author talks about, and he's going to talk about like how everything is just pointless. It's just meaningless. It doesn't matter what you do. It's just pointless. Okay, but we're going to get there. Okay, go ahead and go to the next one. So some more background information on this book. Go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, these are some important things to remember. The author is not actually explicitly named in this book. We don't know who the author is. However, tradition and really all signs and like context points to it being written by Solomon. And as we read through it, we're going to see that it's kind of that it seems as though Solomon's writing it from a third person type of perspective. Okay, are you guys familiar with like ways that literature is written?
Yeah, first
Okay.
person is like through the eyes of the person. Third
Yeah.
person.
Right, and you have like third person omniscient and third person limited. Okay, this is written from a third person limited viewpoint, which so when we compare that with what we know historically about Solomon, we see that this really points to Solomon, because it's very specific things that happened to Solomon. Okay. Second, there are these like characters. Okay, the teacher, or the Hebrew word would be trying to remember how it goes. Kohelet. That's the Hebrew word, Kohelet. And really, what this means is either so we're going to see it say preacher. Like in my Bible, it says preacher. Your Bible might say the teacher. Really, like this idea of Kohelet is teacher, preacher, someone who gathers people together to speak to them. Okay? Kind of like what we're doing right now tonight.
Okay, preacher.
And then the third important thing to remember about this book is the idea of heaven. What this idea is. Okay? What it means, again, like I said, modern translation is meaningless, but there's a deeper meaning. It's like chasing after the wind. It's grasping at smoke. Okay, it's more than just it's meaningless. Okay, the date of when this book is written is likely towards the end of Solomon's reign. So it's around 935 BC. Okay, so now that we know information on it, let's get into it. Okay, go into the next one. I think that should be it. Yes. All right. Awesome. Okay, so let's get into it. We're going to start by reading and jumping in at the very beginning, verses 1 through 11 of chapter 1. Who would like to read those for me? So Miley's hand first. Go for it, Miley.
The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit hath man of all his labor, wherein he laboureth under the sun? One generation goeth, and another generation cometh, but the earth obeyeth forever. The sun also arises, and the sun goes down, and hasteth to its place where it ariseth. The wind goeth toward the south, and turneth about unto the north. It turneth about continuously in its course, and the wind returneth again to its circuits. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Unto the place whither the rivers go, thither they go again. All things are full of weariness, man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear is filled with hearing. That which has been, and that which shall be, and that which hath been done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. Is there a thing where it may be said, see, this is new? It has been long ago, in the ages which were before us. There is no remembrance of the former generations, neither shall there be any remembrance of the later generations that are to come, among those that shall come after.
So when we read these 11 verses, what we see the preacher say is very depressing. In these verses, the preacher talks about how he searched through the depths of human experience and came to the conclusion that all is vanity. Everything. That would be like when I ask you guys to share your biggest life goals. If I were to tell you guys, that's great. They don't matter. Welcome to my TED Talk. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Okay? That's what the preacher is doing in this moment. In these 11 verses, he's telling the people that are listening to him, it matters not what you do. Essentially what he's telling you, what does it matter what you do? After long enough, people won't remember. He is telling the people everything you do under the sun isn't new. Everything you do under the sun is completely vain. Everything you do under the sun is not going to be remembered. After long enough, people won't remember. It's depressing. He says that this is vanity. What we see is that throughout this book, this idea of this word vanity, this word hevel, is used like 38 times, anywhere from 20 to 40 times in this book. It's 12 chapters.
So basically this book is saying, I don't care, it's worthless.
It's not what this book is saying. What this book is saying is everything under the sun is pointless. Everything under the sun, everything you can think of is pointless. And I know that sounds like, well, Clayton, you're just saying the same thing. You're just saying what I said and told me that that's not what this book is about. It's not. And we're going to get to that point when we get to chapter 3 about what the book is about. And we're going to see when we wrap up this book what it really was all about. And so what we see is that the preacher here is telling those who will listen to him, like, there's not anything new. You know? The preacher here he's not pulling any punches. He's not holding back at all. And what he's going to do in these next few chapters that we're going to read through is he's going to go into more detail about the things that don't matter and why they don't matter. So the first thing he's going to talk about is vanity of wisdom. Go ahead and go to the next slide. The first thing he's going to talk about is the vanity of wisdom. Okay? Oh. These are lies that the world tells us that will bring us happiness. These are lies that the world tells us. We will find purpose, success, and joy in these things. That's what the world tells us. In wisdom, the world tells us that we can find success and happiness in how much knowledge we have. Because the amount of knowledge we get can lead to a good job, which can lead to a good life. Okay? I put up here Warren Buffett and Tai Lopez. Tai Lopez, if you guys have ever watched YouTube, he's that guy that's like, hey, just hanging out here in my garage with my Lamborghini, and then he like pans over and shows his like book, his like wall of books. And he's like, this is what I value more is my knowledge.
Wait,
Okay.
is he white? He's white?
Yeah, I think so.
And he's like a pastor?
I don't know if he's a pastor.
Oh, I think my mom was.
But he follows this idea that like Warren Buffett has of this idea that like the more knowledge you have, the more you earn. Warren Buffett actually suggests that people should be reading 500 pages a day in order to be successful. No joke.
That's an entire school day.
500 pages?
500 pages a day in order to be successful. Now, do you guys know who Warren Buffett is?
No.
Warren Buffett was Jeff Bezos before Jeff Bezos. Okay?
What?
Warren Buffett used to be like the richest man alive.
Oh.
Like he's a million or billionaire. Like he's loaded. Okay? And he's been super successful. So when he says stuff like this, like read 500 pages a day because that's what will bring you success. The more knowledge you have, the more you will earn. People kind of listen to that and they feel like, well, if I have lots of wisdom, then I'm going to have more money, I'm going to have a good life, and then everything's going to be good. I'm going to find my purpose in Another lie that the world tells us is this lie of pleasure. You'll find your purpose and joy in pleasure. Go out and get what you want, date who you want, and do whatever you want. Live for the weekend. After all, you only live once, right? That's what the world tells us. I was watching a video like studying for this, and I loved what they said when they talked about this part where Ecclesiastes talks about pleasure. They said, work for the weekend, it's all hell, Monday still comes. I was like, yeah, we all hate Mondays. Like, we know that they're coming. It still comes, regardless of how we live. But the world tells us, live it up right now. Do right now. Do what it is that you want right now. That's where you'll find your purpose. That's where you'll find your joy.
So what about then?
Huh?
Like, what about then?
We're going to talk about that.
Like do it now, and then there's nothing to do then.
Yeah, true. And then finally, wealth. Work, work, work. Earn enough money to where you can have a good life. You can buy a good house. You can have a good family. You can send your kids off to a good college. You don't have any debt. You can have a stress-free life. It's like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that meme about Oprah, where it's like Oprah shares her 6 tips on how to be stress-free. And like underneath it says, step 1, have $1 billion. Okay? But the world tells us, work hard. Earn what you can, that you can buy whatever you want. Find yourself a good job. One that will earn a lot of money. What for? At the end of your life, what can you use it for? Best case scenario, you leave it off to someone who doesn't really care about it anyways, because they have their own fortune. These are lies that the world tells us that we can find our purpose and our joy in. These are lies that the book of Ecclesiastes is going to tear down. Starting with the first one, wisdom. The vanity of wisdom. Go ahead and go to the next one. That should be the one I was thinking of. That was a slide ahead. Next one. Still a slide ahead. Alright, there we go. The vanity of wisdom. I put that verse 1, or I put chapter 1, verse 2 up there again to remind you guys that what the world says, all vain. All vain. It's all vanity. So the vanity of wisdom, if we read through verses 12 through 18, it says, I, the preacher, have been king over Israel and Jerusalem, and I applied my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and a striving after wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted. I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who were over Jerusalem before me. And my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I applied my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceived that this also is but a striving after wind. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. So here the author, the preacher, talks about his personal experience with gaining wisdom. He says, I've gone through and I've gained more wisdom than anyone else in my time. This is clue number 1 that this is Solomon that's writing this. He says, I went through and I've gained more knowledge than anyone else I ever knew. More wisdom than anyone else I ever came across. Anyone else that I've ever talked with, I've gained more knowledge than them. And yet, he says, it is a unhappy business that God's people are busy with. It is vain. It is vanity. It is a striving after wind. The lie that perpetuates through our world says that if we know enough, we will be successful. And with success comes happiness. But Solomon, as the preacher, tells us that gaining wisdom is still vanity. It is hevel. The irony here is found in that Solomon had enough wisdom to learn that gaining wisdom was pointless. It was vain. Now I want you guys to understand me. I need to pause real quick. I want you guys to understand me in saying this. I am not telling you guys go drop out of school because gaining wisdom is pointless. I'm not telling you guys to not go and find God's chosen spouse for you because dating is pointless. I'm not telling you guys that anything that is talked about in these chapters as being vain. I'm not telling you guys that, well, it's vain, it's worthless, don't do it. That's not what I'm telling you guys. The theme of the book that we need to keep in mind is that everything is vain save for one thing, and that is what we're going to find out in chapter 3. We're going to find out that the one thing that is not vain is working and striving after God's gift. Doing all these things for God. Doing all that we do for God. Being completely devoted to God. That's what we're going to find out. And that's the point of Ecclesiastes. That searching out wisdom for just the sake of wisdom or the sake of gaining more wealth is vain. Kelsey calls me a wealth of useless knowledge. I truly, truly am. I really am, guys. I'll tell you right now, I'm a wealth of useless knowledge. I know some of the most obscure facts and some of the most pointless facts too. Okay? True facts? True fact. Okay? The first bomb dropped in Berlin in World War II killed the only elephant in the Berlin Zoo.
Unneeded.
No point for me to know that, but I know that.
Unneeded.
I saw the guy told us at camp once.
Bro, you just believe that.
I remembered it, yeah.
Another one.
Another one? Another random fact. Okay, Lincoln had a senator named Kennedy, and Kennedy had a senator named
Oh, I've
Lincoln.
heard that. Another one.
Another one. Another random fact. Oh my gosh. Okay. Another one is that great white sharks can swim at 35 knots per hour.
Well, that's needed just in case.
They're actually
Huh?
Well, that's
You
needed.
said that.
That's needed. But you guys, we would watch Jeopardy, and like the most obscure things would come up, and I would have the answer, and Kelsey would be like, "How do you know that?" And I'm just like, "I'm a wealth of useless knowledge." Okay, I am. Okay, Edgar Allan Poe was paid $9 for his work, The Raven. $9.
What is that?
Edgar Allan Poe was paid $9 after he wrote The Raven.
Dolphins used to have 4 legs.
What?
He was paid $9. That's it.
All I
Nice.
can all I can say is back when Pangea was, dolphins only had 4 legs.
They have legs.
That I don't know if you should like go off spouting that, because then that would be like evolution. So you might want to like really research and pray about that.
I didn't say it was true, and I didn't say it wasn't true. I said all I know.
Wait, do you know like any scary facts?
Do I know like any scary facts?
Turtles don't have eyes.
No, I think she means like facts about like horror things.
Like
Oh.
scream.
Only
Not
30% of the ocean
oh
has
my
been.
God, ice shit.
Only 30% of the ocean has been explored.
We've explored more of space than our own ocean.
Yep. That's true.
Okay, enough with but you see like
You never tell me
What?
a scary fact.
a scary fact. Okay,
Swear if he says something about dead people.
I'm not gonna say anything about dead people. Do you know the movie The Curse of La Llorona?
Yes.
Okay, that is based on an actual urban myth that originates down in San Antonio. On I-10 in between Seguin and San Antonio, there's a creek. It's called Woman Hollering Creek. This is supposedly the place where La Llorona took her children and threw them in the river to drown
Why
them.
should I go there?
Okay. It is also said that you can hear her screaming, I think, or wailing at that place. I'm not sure. I've never been there, and I've never wanted to be. But yeah. Okay. That is based on an urban myth there. Yes.
I got a scary fact.
Okay, we're done with scary facts. We need to stay focused on our lesson. What you got, Tiffany?
What was her name again?
I don't know like her actual name, but everybody calls her La Llorona, and it's just the Yeah, it means the crying woman. But yeah, they all call it, yeah, but anyways, back to our lesson. The preacher here, the teacher here, is saying that all this wisdom that he gained, more than anyone in his time, was still vanity. How many of y'all would love to be the smartest person in the room? Tiffany, no. Solomon says, I was, and I still found it unfulfilled. I still found it like I was chasing after wind. All right, we got 10 more minutes and like 3 more points, so we got to pick it up. All right, we're going to skip over to chapter 2. We're going to be in verses 1 and 11 here, 1 through 11 also. The next one, chapter 2, 1 through 11, you want to read? Go for it. Go ahead and go to the next slide.
I said to my heart, come now, I will test you with your mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, but surely this is also vanity. I said of laughter, madness, and of mirth. What does it accomplish? I searched in my heart how to gravity my flesh with wine, while guiding my heart with wisdom, and how to lay hold on fully till I might see that what was good for the Son of Man to do under heaven all the days of their lives. I made my words great. I will build myself houses, and planted myself vineyards. I made myself gardens and orchards, and I planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made myself water pools from which to water the growing trees of the grove. I cured male and female servants, and had servants born in my house. Yes, I had great possession of herds and flocks. Then all who were in Jerusalem before me. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and special treasure of kings and of the provinces. I cured male and female singers and the delight of the sons and men, and musical instruments of all kinds. So I became the great and excellent more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure. For my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my reward from all my labor. When I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and on the labor in which I had and indeed all was vanity and grasping for the wind. Oh, there was no profit under the sun.
Oh my gosh.
So here, Solomon tells us and destroys the second lie of the world in talking about the vanity of pleasure. Verses 1 through 11, the preacher decides that, all right, well, if wisdom isn't fulfilling, surely I will find fulfillment in pleasure. And surely I will find fulfillment in doing what I want, in going after all the desires of my heart. I'm about to tell y'all something that maybe y'all knew or maybe y'all didn't know about Solomon. Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Meaning that when Solomon says that his heart ached for nothing, like there was nothing that his heart didn't want or didn't desire, he was talking about like there was literally nothing that his heart did not desire. There was nothing that he did not let himself have.
He didn't have me.
Okay?
How many children do you have?
He had lots. He had a lot of children, okay? But we read through all that he gathered, all the pleasures that he took in. We read through it all. He talks about how he searched with his heart how to cheer his body with wine. Okay? He made great works. He built houses and planted vineyards and made himself gardens and parks and planted them and built pools. And he had male and female servants that he had gained from conquest. He had male and female servants that were born and given to him. He had great possessions of herds, more than anyone else before him in Jerusalem. He also gathered silver and gold and treasure of kings. We're going to talk about exactly what Solomon's net worth was back in his day. Okay, how much wealth he had acquired. But essentially what we see is that here in chapter 2, there are two key verses that we really need to talk about. In verse 10, he says, "And whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them." He said, if I saw it and I wanted it, I went and got it. He said there was nothing that I didn't see, that I wanted, that I didn't go get.
So he had everything on there.
At that time, probably pretty close to. We're going to talk about how much money he had, and yeah, he probably had pretty close to everything on earth.
Man, if I had that money, I just bought me some shoes and clothes.
Wait till you hear about how much money it was. It really will shock you. It shocked me. But then in verse 11 he says, "Then I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil I had expanded in doing it, and behold, all was vanity." He says, I had everything. I looked at what I wanted, and I took it, and I got what I wanted. And it was vanity. It was a striving after wind. There was nothing to be gained from it. There was no profit in it. Verses 18 through 26 of chapter 2. We're going to the next one. The vanity of wealth and work. We see that, go ahead and go to the next slide. The world tells us, work hard, make a good living, have enough money, and you'll be fine. Verses 18 through 26 of chapter 2, this is what Solomon writes. "I hated all my toil, in which I toil under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me. And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool, yet he will be master of all, for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This also is vanity." What Solomon goes through here, we're not going to read it through all because we're running out of time. But what Solomon goes through here all is he talks about, like, I worked, and I gained all this wealth, and I gained all this money and everything. For what? To leave it to the next man? Who might be wise or a fool with it. He says, why did I work so hard to gain this money? Right now, according to Forbes, the richest man in the world is Jeff Bezos with an estimated net worth of $202.4 billion. That's a lot of money. That's enough money for him to take a 10-minute walk around in space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then come back to Earth. Like, I told y'all when I read how much Solomon had, his estimated net worth in his day,
How much?
it shocked me.
Tell me.
First, I want to know, do you guys think it was higher or lower than Jeff Bezos'?
Higher.
Higher?
Well, actually, everything was a lot cheaper back then.
So do you think it was lower?
Lower.
You think it was lower?
Lower, but it had more worth.
According to MarketWatch.com, Solomon's wealth is estimated at $2.2 trillion.
Oh my goodness!
I knew it was trillions. It had to be
$2.2 trillion. That's how much net worth it was estimated he had. He would gain anywhere from $20 to $40 million worth of gold from surrounding kingdoms every month.
What did he do to get this?
I always think, like,
He was wise.
What jobs did I have?
Wise.
like when people say, oh, I have $600, and the first thing is like, could buy so many clothes or shoes with that.
Imagine if you had $2.2 trillion. Like, that's more money than like I think any of us would know what to do with.
Honestly,
Okay.
though, how do you do anything? I wouldn't know what to do.
That's why he says, I saw what my eyes desired and I took it. It was mine. He says, whatever I saw, I took. It was mine. Because he could. Because he could. And yet he says, all of this was vain. $2.2 trillion, and he says all of this is vain still.
That is not.
In chapter 3, we see really what the preacher comes to. Go and go to the next slide, Nina. We see that in chapter 3, the preacher talks about how there is a time for everything. Now these verses, they're verses 1 through 14. If you guys have time, go through and read them. Okay? These are typically verses that are shared at the time of a funeral. Okay?
What's funeral? Oh, that's wonderful.
The reason why is simply because like they're read at a surface level and read at like the verse 2 of chapter 3 says a time to be born and a time to die.
The time to be born and time to die.
And then verse 4 it says a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Like that's why this chapter is read at funerals.
I read that whole thing.
Essentially just because of a surface level interpretation of what it says. Okay?
So amazing.
But there's a beauty in this poem that the preacher writes here, that the author writes here. It says, for everything there is a season and a time, for every matter under heaven. And if you read through those, what you see there's a time to be born and a time to die, which are opposites. A time to mourn and a time to laugh, a time to weep and a time to dance. Like, these are opposites, and what the author is bringing out is that there's a beauty in God showing us the opposites and the finality of life. Hey Tiffany, can you run down to my office and go get the plug for my computer? It's a white cord. You'll see it right there. And so, we shouldn't be too much longer, but just in case. In the first half of this chapter, he talks about something good, and in the same breath, something bad, a time to be born and a time to die. This list shows us that the bad in life will not be avoided, and that's why it's important to use the time that God has given us and use it wisely. The preacher also talks about things under the sun. Verses 9 through 14, he really talks about like the God-given task, and he really talks about like our purpose in this world. The preacher talks about, up till verse 9 of chapter 3, the preacher has talked about all things under the sun, and what he means by all things under the sun is he means all earthly things. When he's talking about this is vanity, he's talking about things under the sun, these earthly things, these earthly problems are vanity. And the preacher tells us in verses 9 through 14 that the one thing that we don't find vanity in is serving God. That is our purpose, and that is where we will find true fulfillment in our life. So where does that leave us tonight? Where that leaves us tonight is that when we look to serve our own flesh and our own will, we will find nothing more than striving or chasing after the wind. We'll find that it's nothing more than that. It's pointless. It's heaven. It's vanity. But we will find true fulfillment, true purpose in founding, in searching, and serving God, and in living out His good, what He has laid out before us. Our fulfillment should be found in serving God and following His will for our life. Right now, maybe you're watching tonight, maybe you're in this room tonight, and you don't have a relationship with God, you don't know God, you don't know what it is, and you've tried everything else under the sun to find fulfillment and find purpose and find joy. And all it's done is left you wanting more. let's wrap it up real quick. Thanks. Okay. This is your chance. Tonight is your chance right now. If you don't have that relationship, or if you've tried everything else and you've not tried God, this is your chance to come to Him. Do not let this chance escape. Now is the time to come to God, confess your sins, and walk in a new life with Him. Let's close in prayer. Father God, we come before you tonight, God. We thank you for the time that we can gather together. God, that we can be with you. And Lord God, I ask that you, that tonight, God, that you